Okay, so Magic Round is in the books for the NRL this year. A fantastic weekend of Rugby League up in Brisbane. The weather has not played ball, however. But I will say this, Rugby League in torrential rain has got something magical about it. It really is just a magical occasion in a sense, because it's a proper test. Now, on Thursday, the Origin Game 1 for the women was played on a 65% relayed surface at Suncorp. The middle section of the pitch has been completely relayed. It was cutting up quite badly when Brisbane played the Bulldogs in the last round, in round 8. So the Suncorp ground crew have basically done a two-thirds job on the worst areas of Suncorp Stadium's playing surface. The Origin game, I did enjoy it. It was 32 points to 12 to New South Wales over Queensland, the women's Origin. And that was sort of like a little tester to see how the playing surface would hold up. I mean, if it started cutting up with the women's Origin, you would have some concerns with how the weather's played out over this weekend. I mean, the Storm Raiders game ended in a deluge. Most of the games were played with the weather, just torrential rain. The playing surface held up for the women's Origin game. I thought I would mention that. The Magic Round itself, the Sharks Eels kicked off the NRL action. The Sharks winning 28-18 over the Eels. Not the best Sharks performance, but you can definitely see that there are improvements there with the Sharks. They have been inconsistent so far this season. The Eels, it's going to be a long season for them. This is a rebuild year for the Eels with Jason Riles. They were doing some good stuff in patches, and then defensively they are the worst defence in the league. They really are in a real rebuild phase. They look better with Mitch Moses in the side, but they are missing like Lomax and other players as well. They're not at full strength. The Eels were stubborn, but the Sharks had too much quality. But the Sharks are still inconsistent. However, a good bounce back win for the Sharks. The Roosters 36-26 over the Dolphins. The Roosters are building a bit of momentum now after their shocking start to the season against the Broncos in Game 1. They've started to build some momentum. They've made some line-up changes. And it's starting to have an impact with how they've changed the line-up. Now, they are decimated by injury. But the way they're playing, they are just playing out of their skins with the squad they have available. They are missing a whole host of players. The Dolphins, I think this is going to be another season where they miss the top 8. But the Dolphins have shown flashes themselves in games. But much like the Sharks and some other sides, the Dolphins are very inconsistent. They're a hard team to read. They can be brilliant when their attack's clicking. And look, they've scored 26 points. This side can score. But defensively, they have some frailties. And the Roosters expose that. And, the Roosters have got a lot of finals experience in that side, even with all the injuries. And some of the players who've got limited experience are stepping up to first grade rather well, and they are showing some fight. Now, I did predict out of the teams that made the top 8 last year, I felt the Roosters looked vulnerable at dropping out. They're actually in a chance of scrapping and fighting and gaining their way back into the top 8. They're showing a lot of fight. The Rabbitohs Knights, the Rabbitohs 4, Knights 30. Where has this performance from the Newcastle Knights been over the last 6 weeks? Where has it been? Sharp with a hat-trick. But why can't the Knights do this week in, week out? Adam O'Brien is a coach under pressure. This is a team under pressure. But they pull one out the bag with one of the best performances I've seen the Knights play in several seasons. Quite honestly, that's the best I've seen the Knights play for a few years. The Bunnies, I think their season's starting to fall apart. The injuries are starting to take a toll. They are missing a lot of players from their lineup. They look a little bit vulnerable at the moment that their season could just completely unwind and implode. They had a great start to the season, but now their form has completely deserted them. Their confidence has deserted them, and they are looking really defensively, not like a Wayne Bennett coach side. They have a lot of frailties defensively. The personnel might change, but the defensive system should stay the same. They are looking a little bit vulnerable. They just don't quite look up to pace. They don't look fit enough. In my opinion, they do not look fit enough. They are missing a lot of players, but that was a really poor performance by the Bunnies. The Warriors-Cowboys was one of the best games of Magic Round. The Cowboys with a late comeback in the second half. It's finished 30 points to 26 to the Warriors. This Warriors side are the real deal, and this Cowboys side, while they've lost in Magic Round, they can take a lot from that with how their attack worked and their fight that they have. There's going to be a lot of other tough tests for the Cowboys, but this was two really evenly matched sides. The Warriors, though, I do think are the real deal. There have been concerns in the past with the Warriors away from Mount Smart Stadium and away from New Zealand, but they have great travelling support. There are growing calls for a second team in New Zealand because of how the Warriors have really galvanised the whole of New Zealand, as in the Rugby League fans across both North and South Island. They put in a fantastic performance. I do have some concerns with the Warriors with game management. They nearly blew that lead. They nearly lost that game. The Cowboys were chasing them down in the second half. But it was a fantastic game to watch. I think the conditions probably suited the Warriors a little bit more than the Cowboys. You know, how the weather has ultimately impacted Magic Round. It's rained a lot. The playing surface with the relayed sections held up quite well, but the sections that haven't been relayed are starting to cut up quite badly. So there may be more relaying have to be done at Suncorp. But the Warriors hold on for a 30-26 win. They are the real deal. Let's not kid ourselves. These are dark horses for me for maybe not the minor premiership, but definitely top four. The Tigers Dragons. The Tigers winning a tight one. There is the Sewer bombed try. I don't know how he's managed to lose control of that, but that was a turning point. But the Tigers, last year, they lose that game. The year before, they lose that game. So they've made a lot of development, a lot of growth with this Tigers side. 34 points to 28. Benji Marshall, I think, is starting to turn things around. The Lockie Galvin situation is still ongoing, but since he's been recalled back to the side, they have responded. Now, whether he's there next year is a separate discussion between the Tigers, Lockie Galvin, and whatever club wants to sign him. But while he's a Tigers player, he's having a positive impact on this side. Jerome Luai is obviously having a positive impact on this side. The Dragons, much like the Dolphins and some of the other sides, very inconsistent. They are good in moments, bad in moments. You don't know what you're going to get with the Dragons. The Tigers are showing a lot more fight this season than in the previous 3 seasons. As I say, that game was played last year, they lose, but the Sewer bomb try, I think, is going to be on the highlight reel for quite some time. That happens 1 in like 100 matches or something. It's a rare event, 1 in 1,000 maybe. And that was a turning point because the Dragons were gaining some momentum. With that bomb try, Jerome Buller goes down the other end, runs the whole length of the field and scores, and that was the turning moment. That was enough to break the Dragons' resistance in a very, very close game. But as I say, Tigers in years past lose that. The Dragons, they've lost a lot of close games, and I think that's going to cost them when it comes to making the top 8 or finishing in the bottom half of the table. Is losing these close games where they actually are on top. They fluffed that one. They fumbled that one quite badly. The Titans Bulldogs to kick off today's action. Titans scored 18 points, Bulldogs 38. The Bulldogs missing a lot of key players. That was possibly the best Bulldogs performance I've seen in a while. In regards to backs against the wall, bounce back from a disappointing result last week. Down on troops. It does help when the Titans have their starting halfback knock himself out in one of the first tackles of the game and cause disruption to the Titans. But the Bulldogs, considering the amount of players they've got missing and the lineup changes they've had to make, Jacob Kiraz, he's got to be in the origin discussion now for New South Wales with how he's been playing. Stephen Crichton, I mean, their combination on the right is terrifying. But the Bulldogs, considering, as I say, with the players missing, that is a good performance by the Bulldogs. Backs against the wall job. The Titans, their season's falling apart, and Fafita sent down to reserve grade. Didn't play well apparently, so the Titans have a lot of problems, and Des Hasler is now a coach under pressure. Their season's falling apart, and we could be discussing along with the Eels wooden spoon here. The Panthers Broncos. I was not expecting this result. 32 points to 8 to the Panthers in torrential rain at times. The Panthers don't like playing in the rain. Well, they've beaten that hoodoo. They put 32 points on the Broncos. They were 6-0 down at one point. They have dismantled the Broncos either side at half time. That Broncos side, yeah, that was a poor performance. They imploded. Adam Reynolds had a couple of kick errors, trying to go for 40-20s, kicking out on the full. You can't blame that all on Adam Reynolds, but the Broncos as a team just imploded. They had a very strong start to the game, and then the Panthers steamrolled them. Where has this performance for the Panthers been for most of the season? It's only their 3rd win, which I find shocking. Where has this Panthers performance been? They showed glimpses in Vegas. But that was a statement win by the Panthers. Their combinations are starting to figure it out, and they've still got players to return from injury as well and suspension. So this Panthers side will get stronger. This is going to be a boost with confidence, and they've won 2 out the last 3. They've lifted themselves off the bottom of the ladder, which is important. But the Broncos' performance is concerning. We're seeing repeats of previous seasons where they've fallen apart. When they've had a lead, they go behind and then they just implode. So that's interesting. Now, before I move on to the Storm Raiders, there was a quick shot of Ezra Mam on the Broncos bench as part of the Broncos party, and as soon as his picture went up on the big screen, everyone in the stadium booed him. So I'm not sure if Ezra Mam, if the fans are going to welcome him back into the Broncos jersey. He's obviously had his lengthy suspension for his off-field drug driving incident. I think Ezra Mam is exceptionally lucky to be putting on a Broncos jersey as early as next weekend, but he was booed when he was shown on the big screen. So that's going to be interesting how Maguire gets him back in the side with Hunt and Reynolds as his halves pairing. But that was a very interesting one. But the Panthers fully deserved their win. I have not seen the Panthers play that well since the grand final last year. The Storm Raiders, the Storm fumbled this one. They were 6 points up with 5 minutes left. They managed to lose 18 points to 20 in Golden Point. And there is some controversy in this game. 2 sin bins in Golden Point. It was a fiery game. These are 2 sides that don't like each other. You look at the head-to-head between the Storm and the Raiders, it's quite an even rivalry. And as a Raiders fan, I had some concerns going into Golden Point with how the team had played throughout the game. There was some ill discipline at times. It was a close game, neither side really. I mean, at one point, the Storm were racing ahead in the first half. The Raiders pegged them back at half-time. The weather impacted the end of the second half, and Golden Point, it just chucked it down. I think that suited the Raiders a bit more than the Storm. The Raiders were happy to keep things a bit tighter. Kyle Weeks has tried to take it to Golden Point as a great piece of individual brilliance. The chip and chase over Ryan Pappenhausen. The 2 sin bins, there had been repeat warnings from the referee about the coming togethers between players. There's been a few flashpoints in the game. But the Storm have fumbled this one. And they're showing a few weaknesses going into the Origin period. They've lost 2 of the last 3. And while they had a great win last weekend, they conceded 40 unanswered points against the Dolphins a couple of weeks ago, and they fumbled this from a winning position here with 5 minutes to go. They fumbled it. They have 6 points clear. The field goal that's disallowed is an interesting one, and that can be debated. There's some debate about one of the penalties given to the Storm in Golden Point. The Storm then give away another penalty, 2 sin bins. The Raiders go down the other end. On the stroke of half-time in Golden Point, Fogarty slots the winning penalty. So the Raiders, I think, are also a dark horse this season alongside the Warriors. I think they should not be underestimated. Their start to the season. As a Raiders fan, I wasn't expecting much this season. I was expecting a rebuilding season. At the start of the season, a lot of expert journalists and commentators, and I'm using that, were saying this is a team that's going to be down the bottom, potential wooden spoonists. This team is hungry, they're fit, they've got energy, commitment. They may not be the most skillful, they may not be the most talented, but I tell you now, this Raiders side is a good team unit. The work rate is there, the fitness is there. The Sea Eagles had the bye going into this, and they're on the back of some indifferent form, although they did beat the Panthers last week, so they miss out on Magic Round. And coming out of this, we've seen hat-tricks and a lot of doubles. We also only have one side yet to win at Magic Round, and that is the Dragons. They are still winless at Magic Round. The Bulldogs have ended their Magic Round hoodoo with their dominating win over the Titans. The Bulldogs are still the top dogs in the NRL. And so there we go. There is my review of Magic Round. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed all the Rugby League festival that we had. And I do hope they complete the returfing of Suncorp, because Origin's round the corner. While the central section of the pitch has been relayed, the in goals and the outside perimeter sort of the pitch is cutting up quite badly, and we want to see a good playing surface for Origin. and the rest of the season. Hopefully the weather improves somewhat, but watching Magic Round in the rain, with the torrential rain, had added something special to it. It added a little bit of something, which was another element in the mix, but it added a little bit of theatre to it. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on Magic Round in the comments section below. And from me for now, it is all I have, but I will have some more content for you soon. And it is goodbye from me for now.